Joining me now is Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona. Thanks so much for taking time for us today, sir. So your colleagues have laid out this long list of investigations. It includes everything from the origins of the COVID pandemic to the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Talk to me about where investigations into the president's son and the Biden family's foreign business dealings ranks among that list. We've not gotten a clear answer on that.
Well, so for the Oversight Committee, it's the first investigation that we're really going forward with. And the reason is because there are implications that have come forward, everything from Tony Bobulinski's testimony, which you played a little bit of earlier, to the suspicious activities reports, where there's more than 150 of those from Hunter Biden, to a laptop that was suppressed, and what was in there was not investigated for over a year by the DOJ. So on one hand, you're going to have that going, and in the Judiciary Committee, you're going to be looking at the DOJ and the FBI and their politicization and their abuse of power against American people. So those two kind of are going to go hand in hand for those two committees.
Sir, Republican leadership or incoming House Republican leadership says that their top tier priority now is getting a handle on inflation, working on the economy, and helping to steer the American people forward. How does this investigation in particular forward your party's aim?
Well, we have multiple committees, and the committees that will deal with the inflation are those that deal with federal spending. Now, if we were to diversify and put the appropriations and as subcommittees of the authorizing committees, you would see that come to those two committees, but you won't. You'll see those go through the 12 bill process that we call regular order to get the federal spending down. And that should be done by June 1st so that we can actually do something. That would be the first time, Jillian, since I've been in Congress, if we do that, and I think that we will, and that's going to come from the Appropriations and Budget Committees and not from the Oversight and Judiciary Committees.
Well, sir, to be clear, your critics say that the investigation into Hunter Biden in particular is backward-looking rather than forward-looking. What do you say to that?
Well, you can never do an investigation looking forward because you're looking at events that have happened in the past that in fact have bearing on the future. So when we start talking about Hunter Biden, we need to talk about what did the DOJ and FBI do? Did they suppress? And the answer is yes, they suppressed. Was President Biden compromised? Has he been compromised? And it looks like potentially yes. When you have suspicious activity reports, 150 of them, we've only been able to get access to 2 of them. They've changed the rules to prevent Congress from getting those. And when previous administrations, both Democrat and Republican, have allowed those, of course an investigation is going to be backward looking, because that's the only way you can look as an investigation. And you do an investigation backward looking so you can correct the future activities so you don't have the kind of misconduct in the future.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, sir. I want to make sure I ask you about this. Well, the top tier House Democratic leadership is stepping down. They're making way for new blood. As you know, Hakeem Jeffries is announcing today that he plans to make this bid to lead the party. Speaker Pelosi and her longtime number 2, Steny Hoyer, are handing the party reins to what they are calling a new, younger generation of lawmakers. The Wall Street Journal editorial board, though, says Pelosi's tenure offers some lessons to you and your colleagues. Quote, "There is no denying that Mrs. Pelosi has been an effective leader, the most powerful speaker in decades. Were Republicans paying attention? Last week's elections, the GOP regained the House, but its new majority will be as small as Pelosi's current one. The narrow margin next year calls for a strong speaker and Republican unity." So when it comes to you, sir, you've made clear you're challenging GOP leader Kevin McCarthy for the speakership. Take a listen to him this week.
Do you think you will have the votes by January to become Speaker?
Yes. Look, we have our work cut out for us. We've got to have a small majority. We've got to listen to everybody in our conference.
Do you want Democrats to try to support you?
No, we're the majority as Republicans, and we'll get there as Republicans.
You say that you are not going to be part of that small majority. Here's a quote from your op-ed out today. "I cannot vote for Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker." Talk to us about that.
Yeah, look, one of the things that we would do if we were going to truly unify is we would move power away from the center. One of the things that the Wall Street Journal fails to understand is that Nancy Pelosi actually consolidated and centralized power to herself so that most decisions in Congress rest on 4 people, the Republican and Democrat leaders in both the House and the Senate, and the rest of us we're expected to go along. I do agree with Kevin McCarthy that it's going to be all Republicans voting for all Republicans. That's what's going to happen here. But I'm not sure Kevin's going to get the 218. That's where he and I disagree. And there are reasons that the American public say we need a change in leadership. And they do say that. There isn't any place I go, whether it's in my district, in the state, or around the country, literally hundreds of times every year when people don't make that the number one issue. Are you going to give us new leadership? And why do they say that? It's because we've watched what has happened when we don't actively fight and use every tool we have to slow down the Biden administration. That's what people want, and that's what new leadership would be expected to do.
So unity inside the Republican Party is in question. Your own colleague, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, says it's going to take even more than that to deliver for voters. Take a listen.
But there are Republicans and there are Democrats who are willing to work together. I've done that over the last 2 years, and I want to increase and improve that kind of work and reach across the aisle. And there's not going to be a lot that we agree on, but where we do, if we want to get anything to the president's desk to be signed into law in the next 2 years, it's going to require us to work together to negotiate, build consensus, and maybe make some concessions.
Are you interested in any of that, working across the aisle, making concessions?
Look, first of all, we do work across the aisle whenever we can find comedy on issues, and we do. That's a normal thing. But we also have to work across all this spectrum of the Republican Party, so that if I call up the leader of the Tuesday group, for instance, that's a more moderate, liberal-leaning group, we can talk and we can reach those accords, and we've done it. I've actually sponsored with Hakeem Jeffries the Jack Act, for Pete's sakes, that became law. Yes, that happens. But at the same time, you have to remember that we were given a Republican majority because the Biden administration has failed on their policies so abysmally. And we're going to have to take on those policies. And that's where you will have Republican unity. And this notion that you can't have somebody contest speakership is some kind of evidence of disunity is my opinion, that's bogus. We should have a robust, vigorous, in-house family debate upon the direction we should go, how we should lead, how are we going to use the tools? Because there's more tools than just going over and conceding to the Democrats. How about using every procedural tool that we have? How about using every must-pass piece of legislation as a leverage point? We have that. How about using the oversight committees and the constitutional discipline? We have all of those tools to use, and that's what I think we should be.
Sorry to interrupt you there. We're running out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Interesting talking to you as it always is. Thanks for taking time.
You bet, Jillian. Thanks.